we're not curing cancer, brain surgery or whatever. But, I do have a team of people that rely on me to be available when they need to make decisions or they need something. And I really don't want to be the holdup. Plus, this is a very fast-moving industry. I mean, being in the beverage business, is extremely hard. And it's like every day you wake up to a knife fight, basically. So things happen quickly. And it's like sometimes, you don't really have the luxury of waiting. I also don't think it's fair necessarily for me to just completely drop off the face of the earth and people can't get the answers they need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How She Does It, where we meet women who have the vision and tenacity to build success after success. And we ask them how they do it. I'm Karen Feinerman. I'm a longtime Wall Street investor, a mom of four, and a panelist on CNBC's Fast Money. Nicole Bernard Dawes seemed destined to become a food entrepreneur. At 29, she founded her first company, Late July Organic Snacks. 15 years later, the company, which was bringing in $100 million in sales, according to Forbes, was bought by Campbell's. Rather than take a break, Nicole dove headfirst into her next venture. In 2019, she founded Nixie, a line of organically flavored sparkling water and organic zero-sugar sodas. She serves as the CEO of the brand, which is now available in 11,000 retailers nationwide. And she was just named to Inc. magazine's 2026 Female Founders 500 list. This relentless entrepreneurship makes sense when you learn that her father was Steve Bernard, co-founder of Cape Cod Potato Chip Company. She grew up watching him work and visiting the company factory in Hyannis. Nicole and I chatted about what drives her to take risks and build businesses, the lessons she learned from working alongside both of her parents, and why she loves to go grocery shopping. And yes, it's her favorite thing to do. This was a fun conversation. Hope you enjoy. Nicole Bernard Dawes, thank you so much for being here.
I've been really looking forward to this. Thank you so much for having me.
So I love your story. I want to just jump right in. I heard that you love going to the grocery store. Is that true? How often? What do you do it?
I mean, I'd go every day if I could. People always ask me, what are your hobbies? And obviously I have other things I enjoy, but I mean, I just love it. I love seeing what's new. I mean, to me, when I go to a new city or a new town, there's nothing I enjoy more than going to whatever their local grocery store is and just seeing what's in there and learning about new products. And I really, really appreciate a good grocery store visit. I mean, I would say on average, I do go almost every other day.
Really? Just as sport, as work? What is that for you?
I mean, it's both. I mean, it is my work. It's what I do. And, it's really important, I think, to always know what's new and what's working. And grocery stores are very dynamic. They change all the time. So you can go to the same store every week and it'll be different. So I would say it's definitely for work, but also for sport. I love that. I've never heard anyone refer to it that way before. I think that's going to be what I say from now on.
Okay, great. So what is it that you think that you notice when you go in that most people do not?
I mean, you're looking for trends. You're looking for new ways people are displaying their products. You're looking for pricing, new price points. Really what you're looking for is anything different. And then obviously the other thing I'm also looking at always is my product, which is why I like to go to a variety of stores. Like, how is it looking when no one is touching the shelf? Is something out of stock? I mean, it's amazing what you can learn when you spend time in a grocery store. I mean, obviously, when you're in the grocery business.
So you've been in the business a long time. You successfully launched Late July Organic Snacks in 2003 and Nixie in 2019.
Yep.
So what appeals to you about being an entrepreneur in that space?
Well, I think, so I have to take this back a little bit further to answer that question. So when I was a kid, my mom had a health food store in the 70s. And I feel so grateful to have had that background and everything she taught me and the kind of the love of where your food comes from and quality and all those things. But the flip side of being brought up with a mom with a health food store in the 70s was that there was a lot, I mean, most of the products in there were not things I particularly enjoyed eating. And, when people come over my house, it wasn't like, oh, yay, we're going to have aduki beans and tempeh for dinner. I mean, that wasn't. And by contrast, when I would go over friends' houses, I would see normal things that other kids had. And I think it just created this desire within me to like somehow merge those two worlds. Like just because I care about everything my mom taught me and health and wellness doesn't mean I don't want conventional tasting products. So I think like my entire career has really been driven to give people who care about health and wellness access to the same products that are popular for conventional brands. And I think that's really when I started Late July, that is what was the driving force behind our R&D. And even before that, I ran innovation for my dad. I was the head of marketing at Cape Cod Potato Chips, which was his brand. And I launched our reduced fat potato chip back then, which is still their number one seller. So it's been, I think that desire has been driving my entire career.
So you developed this taste from your mom, which I guess in the 70s, how popular was that?
I would say not popular.
Okay.
I grew up on Cape Cod and it was definitely not popular. I remember when I was a kid, my mom told me that we were going to this like summer camp, mom and daughter, like fun retreat thing. And I was like, oh, this will be so much fun. And it was a macrobiotic cooking retreat in Western Mass run by the Kushis, Misho Kushi. They're actually the founders of Erewhon, which long story there. So it was like a week-long mother-daughter macrobiotic cooking camp. And let me just say, none of my friends were clamoring to come with us. So it was definitely, I mean, I'm like, my mom was definitely like a pioneer on that in our area. I mean, it was not the norm. And certainly none of my other friends ate that way.
Uh-huh. I have heard you say you're sick of carob, you're never eating carob ever again.
Oh, I mean, you will never convince me that a carob-covered rice cake is a treat that anybody would want or should ever eat. I mean, that is just not a thing that is delicious in any way.
All right, let's talk about your dad. So he co-founded Cape Cod Potato Chips. I mean, that seems like a cool thing if you're a kid, right?
I mean, it was amazing. My parents were pretty hands-on with me, and I think it was probably a combination of we didn't have the ability to have anyone else watching me. They didn't have any money. So I was just kind of always around it. And I spent most of my childhood like either at the factory or somehow associated with the company. And I loved it. And one of the things I loved about my dad was he didn't really distinguish a lot between what an adult could do and what a kid should do. He'd be like, I'm going to teach you how to read a P&L, and I'll take you on a business trip to go see how you call on a customer. And I really appreciated that because he never treated me like I wasn't capable of learning something. And because of that, I think I learned a lot about the business from a very early age. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. And I loved it. I mean, I loved the combination of what having a mom with a health food store and a dad who started a potato chip company did for like my formative years of what I wanted to do with my life. I was very involved in the business even as a kid. I think when you're an only child, sometimes that happens because it's just like two adults and one kid. So, you tend to differentiate less, I think. And I appreciated all of that. And I also loved, like, I mean, I hung out at a potato chip factory as like and I think I could operate a pallet jack probably better than I could ride my bike, honestly.
I think factories are fascinating.
They are.
So you went to Tulane
Yep.
and the food business was not in your sights at that time, right?
I started a little cookie company when I was 12. I loved food and I loved that that's what my parents did. I had lots of other things I wanted to do. I thought I might want to be an actress. I wanted to do all these other things. And so when I got to college, I checked out the theater department and I had come from a tradition of doing these very serious, like one woman shows. And it was like a big musical theater department. And I cannot sing. So I will admit this was just not a good fit for me. And I just happened upon an economics class. And honestly, it was like all the parts of my life just clicked together. It just brought together everything I enjoyed, problem solving and thinking through hypothetical situations. And I just loved it. I loved it immediately. And then I decided that I would be an economics major.
That's really interesting. So tell us about your dad's style as a leader and what you took from that when you started building your own businesses.
My father was a great leader. Like, people loved working for him. And, he worked extremely hard. And there was no job that he wouldn't do. Nothing was above him. Everything was very equal at the office. But the one thing that I didn't love was he wasn't around a lot, honestly. And I actually started Late July when I was pregnant. So, I was always going to be a working mom. But I knew that I didn't want to have the kind of relationship with parenting that my dad did. And I really felt strongly that if I was going to do both, I was going to actually do both. I was going to be present in my kid's life and also be hands-on at the business. I didn't really know how that was going to look, but I knew that I wanted to do things differently. And I mean, obviously, technology has made that significantly easier than it was for my father. And I also just decided that I was going to bring my baby to the office. And does that look like a leader? I don't know. But that was the type of leader I was going to be. And I was going to get everything done for work. I still am available 24/7, but I also prioritize my family.
So when you're starting a business and you're pregnant, that's a lot to do. How do you make your life work? I know you're married. Where did your husband fit in?
Well, so he had a successful career in the movie business. And when Late July started to take off, well, it was taking off in that it was taking up the majority of our time.
Regardless of the P&L,
Yes,
it was.
it was not overly successful at the time, but it was successful at monopolizing all of our time. And we kind of decided as a family that he was going to come on board temporarily to support this endeavor. And so that it would allow us to be more effective at both parts of our life, basically. Well, my son that I was pregnant with is 23 now, and we've been working together ever since. So that temporary thing became permanent.
So Late July was a success, but it was not an easy road all the way. So you had products that were launched and then scrapped. You had the recession of 2008, shortly after your dad passed away. So as the CEO, how did you sort of maintain focus and resilience through all of those ups and downs?
You know, one of the things I think is a defining feature of who I am is I am an eternal optimist. I mean, maybe even to a fault. But I don't think I've ever really faced a challenge that I didn't think was solvable. I would say the closest I ever came to that moment was it was, again, the recession that you just mentioned. And I mean, Late July was doing well, but I wouldn't say we were growing every year. We were succeeding, but it wasn't like that explosive success that you really need. And my dad suddenly passed away. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and died very quickly.
Mhm.
And a couple weeks after his death, we got a letter from our bank using his death to put our loan like as a technical default on our loan because we had a death of a member clause. And again, height of the recession, we weren't profitable yet. And we had basically this large equipment loan. And I was so mad that I threw the letter away, but I wish I'd kept it because it said they gave us an opportunity to cure the default, which obviously I would have loved to have cured that default, but I couldn't. And so I was tasked with this, having to replace debt in this impossible moment. I mean, the real reason they were putting us in default was because we were paying like, 0.5% interest on this thing. And I remember at the time seeing the CEO of that bank taking his private jet to this hotel. And meanwhile, they're putting us in this. It was a very bleak time. But even then, as tough as things were, like, I don't think there was a part of me that felt I wasn't going to solve it. And I do remember there was some of our investors who were friends with my dad that, wanted to call like an investors meeting at his wake. And I mean, it was a tough year. But what's interesting about it as I look back, that was the year that we really became effectively an overnight success. It was the like hardship of that year
Mhm.
forced us to really define who we were. And we came out of that situation stronger and better and more ready to fight than we were prior to any of that. We launched like a whole new line of products, which is our tortilla chips. We did so many other just kind of, I think, risky decisions, but turned out great. And we became effectively an overnight success 7 years in the making. But it was that moment. And I do believe when you're an entrepreneur, you do have to have a bit of that optimism, because there's only one thing that's certain, and that is that you are going to hit a lot of problems. And there are going to be things that go wrong more than they go right, particularly in the early days. And if you let that get you discouraged, or if you take it personal, frankly, you just have to figure out a solution and you have to get through it. And we did. And again, I'm sure I've repressed some of the bad moments of that year. But I mean, we really never looked back.
Okay, so you sold late July.
Correct.
What does that feel like?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't think I've ever gotten over the first time my dad sold Cape Cod potato chips, to be honest. I mean, I was gutted. I was heartbroken. And I think everyone always talks about it, like when you start a brand, do you want to sell it? And to me, that's just not ever the way I think about brands. With Late July, I mean, honestly, I thought we would never sell it. Like, I was not out to sell that company. I just wanted to create a good company that made great products, and also was a solid business, had a solid bottom line, was profitable, created good jobs. So I think when it came time to sell it, it was pretty devastating, honestly. I was pretty sad about it, and it was not something that I took lightly at all. I mean, people kept congratulating me, and it sort of was like, I didn't even know how to take that because it wasn't exactly how I felt. But at the flip side of it, I also realized that Late July was getting to be pretty big when we sold it. I mean, it was actually over 150 million. We had, a lot of employees, and it definitely wasn't as fun as the early days, where I'm used to being in like a state of triage all the time. And, I think it's sort of like running an emerging brand is like my extreme sport. I don't heli ski, I do this. And so when you're running a bigger, more stable brand, it's sort of like every day is sort of the same. And it's fun because you're successful and everything's kind of clicking and it's all working, but it's a different type of leadership, it's a different type of company. So I do think it was changing and it was becoming different. But at the same time, it was pretty sad. I still think about it. And everyone said, oh, would you ever start another snack company? And honestly, I wouldn't, because I love Late July. I wouldn't want to compete with it. I want it to succeed. I want it to be successful. And I want to see it kind of live on in the form that it is. I'm still really proud of the products.
Okay. And then how long was it before you felt, I got to do it again?
Yep. I immediately started Nixie after selling Late July. It was a combination of things. First of all, the whole time we had Late July, one of the things that we did most frequently, going back to my grocery stores, is, we were always on display with beverages. And we had a really difficult time finding beverages that like matched our ethos. With Late July, it was all about health and organic and deliciousness. And when you walked into the beverage aisle, it was very much the one part of the store that still felt very stuck in the past. It was filled with sugar, filled with plastic. Almost nothing was certified organic. And I really felt that there was an opportunity for us to do something similar to what we did with Late July to a beverage brand. And coupled with that, I think anybody that's built a business knows one of the hardest things you do is build a team. And most of our senior team wasn't staying on with the company that purchased Late July. So we had this senior team kind of ready to go. And it wouldn't be fair for us to say, oh, give us a couple of years to go travel the world and then we'll start a company, because they're going to all move on with their lives. So if we really wanted to keep the band together, as they say, we really had to keep the band together. So we started literally almost right away. I mean, there was one person that went off on maternity leave at Late July and came back to Nixie, basically. We had this chance to kind of build a company with a bunch of people that we already really knew and loved working with in a category that we felt really needed, kind of the special sauce that we bring to a category. And with Nixie, I'm feeling just so proud of where we are. And it is the company that I dreamed of. It's like what I had hoped we would be doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for those who are not familiar with Nixie, tell us about it.
Sure. So Nixie is a healthy beverage brand. I think that our biggest launch right now is our new zero sugar soda line. And basically, we set out to create like a cleaner, zero sugar, but still like delicious because everything that I do is always focused on taste first because no one's ever going to have a repeat purchase of your product. They don't like the way it tastes. So what drives like most conventional soda sales, it's classic flavors. And to me, that was like a gaping hole in the market. Just like a really delicious, organic, zero sugar soda that didn't have artificial sweeteners. And again, like maybe that's not something that everyone cares about, but it's something that enough people care about. And it's certainly something I care about, just to provide that option where you can have like a cola that kind of meets all those criteria. And we actually just launched a strawberry cream version. And I have a lot of products I've been proud of over the years, but this one might be my most favorite thing I've ever launched. I mean, if I didn't go to the factory and make it myself, I
Uh-huh.
would have a hard time believing it doesn't have sugar in it.
All right. So our producer, she did some background and I think maybe mentioned to you that they did not have a particular SKU at,
Yes.
was it Whole Foods? It was
It was
Whole
the
Foods.
10th Street and 30th Whole Foods
Whole
in New York
Foods.
City.
Okay. And you were on it. You
Yes.
seem to be anxious to follow up.
Yes,
Did that
I did.
happen?
I did. I sent and like literally it was all I could do to not do it while we were talking. But the minute I hung up, I sent a text to our rep in that area and she's going to go in, I think, today. So I will report back on that. But what I loved about that question and like the whole thing is that's our whole business. It is getting on the shelf. That's one of the easier things we do. It's like when you're a new brand, you sell out, the store might forget to order you for a couple days. Being sold out is the absolute worst thing that can happen to an emerging brand because, you lose that,
It's counterintuitive.
besides me, not everyone goes to the grocery store every day. So if your
Right.
product's not on the shelf when they come in, you potentially lost that sale for a whole week, maybe longer. And unfortunately, that is the business. It's just a real nuts and bolts and making sure your product stays on the shelf.
There was a Fortune article about you. One of the lines is the founder of the $100 million company never unplugs from work.
Well, I think that's sort of the thing when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, at least in my mind, it is kind of an all encompassing job. And, we're not curing cancer, brain surgery, or whatever. But, I do have a team of people that rely on me to be available when they need to make decisions or they need something. And I really don't want to be the holdup. Plus, this is a very fast moving industry. I mean, being in the beverage business, is extremely hard. And it's like every day you wake up to a knife fight, basically. So things happen quickly. And it's like sometimes, you don't really have the luxury of waiting. You're kind of just on all day long. You have things happening. So on the weekends when I'm not working, that's the time where we sometimes will think strategically. And that isn't to say that I really also prioritize my family and seeing people and doing fun things. But, I also don't think it's fair necessarily for me to just completely drop off the face of the earth and people can't get the answers they need. For me, it's a choice I've made. I don't really like to be unavailable. I mean, I remember the day my younger son was born, we had to take out like a small line of credit. I don't even remember what was happening at that point. I think it was for packaging or something. And the loan officer actually came into my recovery room so I could finish signing the paperwork. The flip side of that is I am super respectful of our team's PTO and when they are off because I signed up for this. They didn't sign up to be an entrepreneur. They signed up to work for one. I don't want to make them have to make that same sacrifice. I try to really set boundaries. I don't contact people on the weekends unless they need me. And I never contact people when they're on PTO.
So we ask all our guests, what did you do with the first big amount of money that you made? And I guess I would ask it of you and your parents when they did.
Well, I think my dad always loved to travel. And so when he sold Cape Cod chips the first time, he took us on a big trip all through Europe, just the three of us. And I mean, it was amazing. I remember virtually every detail of that trip, and I was 12. So it was a long time ago, but I remember it. And honestly, we did something similar with our kids after late July. We took them on a trip to Italy and got to be together. And I mean, honestly, we did completely unplug and enjoy each other's company. And, I think like experiences to me, that is what I work for, to create memories and to do things like that. Possessions aren't that important to me. And people make fun of how old my car is. And that's just not something that I care about as much as I do about creating experiences.
So, do your kids have any interest in following in your footsteps?
No, my older son went to college for music. He actually signed a record deal his sophomore year, and now he's a musician living in Los Angeles. I will say though, being a young, indie pop artist is not dissimilar. Like you are an entrepreneur, you're running effectively your own business and you're managing all the different parts of it. And he's a super hard worker. So I do think he picked up on that part of it. And my younger son is in film school. so so
So
no.
no footstep
No.
following right
But I
now.
will say that the thing that was most important, I think, when we were raising them was we really wanted and encouraged our kids to follow their passion. Because, I love what I do. I mean, I wake up every day and I can't even believe I get to do this as a job. And that's how you should feel about what you do for work. And I mean, I love getting to see him perform and I'm super proud of him.
Oh, I would think just to seeing him up there and also seeing how other people see him.
It's such a different business. You have all these like fans waiting for you afterwards. I said, no one claps for me when I finish a great, it's like
Right.
people aren't
Sign my
waiting.
tortilla
Right.
chip.
Right. That doesn't happen.
So it's so interesting to me, though, that you're very enmeshed in the business side of it and very much in the product side as well. Do you have one that you prefer over the other?
I mean, honestly, the way that we like kind of separate duties with my husband and I is I oversee finance and sales, and he does marketing and operations. So I think on the sales side, which is, I mean, I think I know where our product is in every grocery store in America, probably. Like I can picture it. That's about the only thing I'm capable of remembering, I think. But I love that. I love working with our customers. I love working with our retailers. I mean, when you find a retailer that wants to work with you to grow a brand, to me, that's one of the most satisfying things that I can do in this job. And the finance side is just important because the way that you ensure that a brand succeeds is by building a brand with a strong bottom line. And it is very difficult. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of honestly just really hard work at getting your promotions in order and tracking everything. And because the way that retailers like charge you for things can be very hard to follow. And I mean, we would have to do a whole another segment on that particular topic. So those are the two things I'm most passionate about. But obviously I love the R&D too. I mean, that's the whole business is creating the products.
So what does it feel like seeing your product out there in the wild?
Well, I remember the first time like I saw Late July in the wild, and the first time actually I was coming back from a really long business, and I used to take a lot of red eyes when the kids were little, and so I would go and come home really fast. And it was a particularly like long trip, and a lot of stressful stuff. And I got on my flight, and I had a Late July tote bag, and the flight attendant like stopped me, and she was like, "Wait a minute. Do you know that brand?" And I said, "Well, actually, it's my company." And she was like, "Oh my gosh." And she just went on and on about how important it was to her kids and like how it changed their lives and all. I remember it so clearly because it was so meaningful. Now, what I find is so cool is when you just see your products in someone's like TikTok story or an Instagram story or, a fan that you didn't know you had. And obviously, it's always fun to see people drinking Nixie in the wild. Like I remember when I was in LA and I was walking by an Erewhon and I saw like a group of people enjoying their lunch and all drinking Nixies, and that felt pretty exciting. But I do love it when you spy it in someone's like Instagram story or things like that. Like we saw like one of my Peloton instructors I love was drinking one and it made me excited. So
Oh, which one?
Robin, she was drinking one and it
That's
made me
great.
pretty excited. So you have
Uh-huh.
stuff like that where it's exciting.
So it's time for the lightning round. We have some fun questions for you, a few would you rathers. All I ask is that you just give us the first thing that pops into your head. Don't think about it. Ready?
Yes.
We know you love grocery stores. What is your preferred route through the store?
Produce first. Because I know I'm going to take a lot of time in the cooler to look at beverages. So I like to look at the produce first and then I hit the beverages second.
Okay. Self-checkout, pro or con?
It depends. I mean, I love getting to know the people in the checkout where I shop regularly, and I know most of them. But if I'm in a hurry, it's self-checkout.
Okay. Ice cubes or crushed ice?
Neither. I don't like to put my
Ooh.
drinks over ice because it makes them go flat faster
Uh,
sometimes. I like to drink my Nixies out of a can, and I drink water without ice.
Okay. You don't need to be ashamed
Although
of
I
that.
do on cocktails, I like cubes.
Okay. What was or what would have been your superlative in high school?
God, I don't know. Probably, I mean, in high school, it probably would have been something related to acting because that was like all I did. Honestly, I do remember one time someone most likely to get a daytime talk show. I remember that. That came up once.
Okay, that's good. Do you have a favorite travel hack?
I mean, even if I'm going to Europe, I won't check a bag.
Okay, good, I get it. All right. Would you rather a walk on the beach in the summer or a walk on the beach in the off season?
Summer, absolutely.
It'd probably be late July would be the
Yes,
guess. Okay.
definitely.
Okay, what books are on your nightstand or in your Kindle?
Well, I love to read, so I have a lot of them. I just finished actually a book called Northwoods, which I really enjoyed. I also just finished Project Hail Mary, which I loved,
Oh, okay.
and
Are you gonna see the
I'm
movie?
seeing the movie tomorrow night. I just read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Oh, and another one that I really enjoyed recently was called The Secret Life of Addie LaRue. I definitely recommend that one. We do a thing in our family where for holidays, like, you have to go to a bookstore and pick out a book for the other person that you haven't read, but you think they'd like. So,
Okay, that's a
yeah.
nice family tradition. Would you rather donuts or beignets?
Oh, beignets. My husband's from New Orleans, and I went to Tulane.
Okay, tortilla chips or kettle chips?
Tortilla chips.
What's something you've changed your mind about in the last year?
I'm sure there's been a million things I've changed my mind about, but, I was really against a Kindle. I mean, that's kind of a stupid thing, but I really like to have real books, and I think it was preventing me from reading as much as I wanted to read, and my son gave me a Kindle for my birthday, and I will admit I was wrong about the Kindle. I love it.
It's extraordinary. It's an
I know, and
extraordinary
you can have
device. I
every
know.
book you want at all times,
Anywhere. It's
anywhere.
amazing. Okay, favorite place to shop in Chatham?
Well, there's a bookstore called the Yellow Umbrella Bookstore, and that is one of my favorite places to shop. I love it.
Okay, last one, 2 parts. What's the best investment you ever made and the worst investment you ever made? And it's a broad definition of investment. It could be anything, like a class you took or something.
Well, the best investment I ever made was in late July, for sure. Put every penny I had into that. I would say the worst investment I've ever made is probably, I mean, I don't know, I've invested in some other brands. It didn't work out, but I don't regret those because normally when I did it, it was because I believed in the founder. And, I still believe in supporting founders that have crazy ideas. And maybe that idea kickstarted them into some version of it in the future. I mean, I think cars are terrible. I hate it every time I have to buy a car. It makes me angry. I keep a car as long as I can. Every time I have to buy a new one, it makes me upset.
That's a good answer. Nicole, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for spending it with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me,
And
Karen. I really appreciate it. I love your podcast, and
oh, thank you.
I'm excited to see this come to life.
Thank you so much for taking time to listen to our conversation on how she does it, filled with brilliant ideas for your next business. We'll have another great conversation for you soon. Until then, onward.